welcome back. It's Christine again with the Artist Pod, and today we're going to talk about the difference between wholesale versus retail, why that's so important to know, and how to pitch your work to like cultural institutions and gift shops and things like that. So let's get started. So wholesale is the price of the materials and your labor, sort of the very base cost of what that would be. So, if you're doing something, if you're doing a painting, for instance, and you need to include the cost of how much the canvas is, how much the paint brushes, all of those things, and how much you would pay yourself. So, if you're working for $10 an hour or whatever you want to factor that in, then you would factor that into the cost, and that, whatever that price is, would be your wholesale price. Retail is the price that you sell it for, and it's not the wholesale number. So the way it would work, say you're trying to do something, your base material cost is $5. Let's say you're doing some wood burning, right? Base material cost $5. So if it's small, if it's $5, I'm presuming it's not very big, probably won't take you all that long. So let's say, you add another $10 to that. So your wholesale price is $15. So you pitch to an institution at $15, but any institution is going to double the cost of that item. So if you've presented it to them as $15, they're going to look at that item and decide if it's worth $30 or if it's not. And if they don't think it's worth $30, they won't sell it for $30. And then you've got to go back to the drawing board to your wholesale price and figure out if you can compromise on that, if you can lower your rate in any way. Maybe it's a small little board you did. Maybe it didn't take all that long. So maybe you took $5, you doubled it to $10, you sold it, and that institution, that company thinks that they could sell it for $20, in which case they might take it. But they're never going to take an item that they can't double the price they've paid if they don't think it's worth that. If you pitch something to them and you're charging them $50 and they don't think it's worth $100, they're never going to buy it from you. So be aware of that. You have to be pretty honest on how you're looking at stuff and your own work and how it's going to sell in a retail environment. For instance, I wouldn't ever reach out to a gift shop and try to sell my shirts. I can't do it because I would have to charge a minimum of $20, and that's making very little profit, a lot less than I really should be charging. And a shirt isn't going to sell for $40, right? Like, I have to be realistic there. That's not going to happen. Once you have that wholesale price down, you need to do some research. Wherever you're looking at, whether it's art museums or zoos or aquariums or whatever it is, do some research beforehand. Look up their mission statement, find out what they're known for, what exhibitions do they have at the moment, what are they passionate about, what are they proudest of. You need to know all of that. If possible, you need to go and visit them, tour their facility, look at their gift shop, take a look at what they like to sell, what price points they're aiming for, and that sort of thing. Maybe you can chat a little bit with the person who's there. Sometimes it'll be the gift shop manager. I will say, however, don't just walk in and ask to speak to the gift shop manager. They won't talk to you. Oftentimes what I've seen in places I've worked is the gift shop manager will literally, if you ask to see them, they'll hand you their card and pretend that they're not them because they don't have that time. So after you have sort of investigated that company, then get the email address of the museum shop manager, gift shop manager, whoever is the buyer responsible for that store, and email them. Don't call them and don't go in person. Just email them. And what you're going to do is you're going to email them a photo of a finished product, preferably taken in good light conditions, so make sure it's a good photo. Natural light can be really good for that. So just make sure it's a good photo that represents your work well. Explain what it is and include a price list. Explain that it's wholesale. You can connect back to the institution in some way, that you've always been passionate about it, you love what they're doing, things like that. That's where doing that prior research really comes in handy. And then send that on so that they have access to photos, price list, and an explanation of what you do. And then you wait, and sometimes they never get back to you. Now you can wait, you can send a follow-up email in a month. Don't send it sooner. Send a follow-up email in a month if you haven't heard, It's ideal if you're doing it and you're including another product. Hey, I haven't heard from you, but I just thought that this might be another thing, new product we've brought in, for the same price as the others. Here's an updated price list. Please let me know if you have any questions. Something that's clearly a follow-up. You're referencing a previous email, but you're not asking why they haven't contacted you. So at that point, it's out of your hands. And don't call them, and don't, go in and try to talk to them without an appointment. You can call and try to set up an appointment, but don't be pushy is what I mean by that. Because ultimately, if they like what they saw in the email, and that's why you send the follow-up email in a month if you haven't heard anything. Sometimes it does get buried. But after 2 emails, it's very likely that it hasn't been buried. They just don't want your stuff. Or at least they don't want your stuff right now. So the way that's going to work is if they want it, they'll contact you. And if they don't want it, you'll never hear from them. So don't take that as an insult. That's common. But once you've made the deal, they want it, you're dropping it off, what you should include in that box, even if you do ship it, is an invoice, because you're not going to get paid for all of this immediately. The payment doesn't come before you deliver the product. So basically, you deliver the product and then you include the invoice. An invoice typically has like terms involved, and I can show an example of an invoice. This is an invoice. You would have your name, your address, all of your contact information up here, the date, the name of the institution, and their address, whatever the title of your object is, or whatever it is, a description of it, the price, how many they ordered, the amount, and this is kind of what's important. So usually the way it works is when they ask for terms, they're going to tell you that the terms are net 30. What that means, and that's what you've got to put here, and it can be different. It can be net 60, it can be net 90, but that's what you put here. Basically, it means that they'll write you a check 30 days after they've received the merchandise. So you're going to have to front all of this out of pocket ahead of time and then deliver it to them for them to go back through, verify that they have everything that you said that you gave them, that they paid that amount, and down here you total all of that, right? So you total all of that amount. And then 30 days is when you can expect payment. So when you drop it off, don't expect to get paid, because that's not how they work. And that's not what they're going to do. You can probably Google an example invoice if you need one, but this is basically all there is to it. And then obviously every line item would be a different object, right? So, if you had, different wood burning objects, you could title them here, and you can use the title, you can use a SKU number, you can do it however you want, describe them here, and they'll sort of verify that that's everything that they ordered. And so it's, aside from the net 30, everything's pretty straightforward. And it can be pretty simple. So, you can start close. You can look up, where do you think your work fits in? Art museums can be a little bit more all-encompassing, because it doesn't necessarily rely on a certain animal. Like if you were going to go to the aquarium and you're doing a giraffe, well, you probably don't want to pitch the aquarium, because that's not what they're going to be looking for. And so just make sure that your art fits, that you've priced it in a way that you think that people will be interested in buying it, that once the institution doubles that price, that it's sellable, that it's something that they would be interested in. Once you sort of hit all of those check boxes, you can start sending the emails, and it doesn't have to be to one. You can send it to multiple. It doesn't really matter. Most don't have any sort of exclusive agreement. Don't stop after one email. Keep creating new products and continue emailing them. Don't get discouraged when they don't get back to you. Keep refining what you're doing, and eventually somebody will want to work with you. Will think that whatever you're offering is something that's really interesting, and will work with them. So. All right, so I hope that's helpful in explaining the difference between wholesale and retail and why it can be so important to sort of reach out. In the floating nether next to me, I have other videos of art tutorials I have done, and I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Take care.